What's up everyone, it's your FPL ThinkingCapFPL and welcome back to another episode of Meta Moves. In this one, we're going to be discussing the best Morgan Rogers replacements as well as the best alternatives to Matheus Cunha as he's finally picked up his ban. Thinking Cap activated. New year, new strikers, new meta. Wolverhampton's Cunha has finally been banned for a few games, which has led to some small changes in my striker power rankings. The majority of the engaged player base has actually moved to Chris Wood as he now cements himself as an official template pick. What a performance against Everton, by the way. Wow, that finish over Pickford, the technique on that was absolutely insane. So yeah, Wood's in the template now, and you're going to see him in most of the content creator teams. And look, I get it. He's super reliable. Minutes are good on penalties for Forest. His non-pen XGI suggests that it's not like he's getting the most chances, but with the chances that he does get, he produces because the post-shot XG is good at 0.45, and it's not actually the highest out of all of the cheap strikers, but you got to keep in mind that Joao Pedro, Raul Jimenez, and Wissa have missed quite a few games through rotation and injury, so Woods actually played way more minutes, way more starts, way more 90s, and to have an output of 12 returns at the halfway point for what he's done historically is really impressive. I have only one concern with Wood, and that's the long-term fixtures. Wolves away is next, and look, I'm not going to lie and say like it's a bad fixture. It's a solid fixture, but then it's Liverpool at home, which is straight up garbage, trash fixture. Then it's Southampton at home, which is Wood's most targetable fixture probably for the next 8 weeks, so at least you're getting 2 good ones in the next 3, but after that he's got Bournemouth away, Brighton, Fulham, Newcastle away, and then Arsenal at home, and then City at home in Gameweek 28. That's not an appealing fixture run for an FPL asset, so Wood looks to be a pretty short-term option. 2 good fixtures in the next 3. You can probably make him work for a bit longer if you plan to rotate him in and out with your 8th attacker, but certainly I don't think he's an essential pickup with those fixtures. If you're looking for a forward in and around that price point, I would have Wood at the top, and I would also consider Yoanne Wissa, aka Alien Head. Bro, his head, I swear to God, it actually looks like an alien. It's insane. But anyways, he has excellent numbers in the key attacking metrics, and interestingly, Brentford have the 6th most targetable fixture run for attackers in the next 10 weeks, so I would consider him. Honestly, I would. His post-shot XG is really impressive at 0.56. He's essentially on the level of a Jackson in terms of finishing quality if we were just disregarding everything else, looking at post-shot XG. But then again, you probably need to sort some kind of rotation plan with him because Brentford do have a couple tough fixtures like Liverpool at home in Game Week 22 where I wouldn't be comfortable with you guys starting him. So yeah, Wood, better asset overall because of the pens, but if you're looking for someone who's maybe a little bit more long-term, Wissa might be the guy for you. I am really high on Joao Pedro, guys. I'm sorry to say. I know some of you guys absolutely hate him. Maybe this won't be a popular thing in the comment section, but I know he's been a little bit stinky, but he's such good value. And just now, 2 assists away to Villa. He's on pens and just so cheap. Also, the thing with Brighton is that, look, yeah, they're in a bad spell. I understand that. They're not doing very well. I don't think they've won in their last 4 games, but they're not a bottom 15 team. They have so much quality in that team, and they should be fighting for European places. You're basically getting an attacker on pens, great minutes, solid baseline bonus. He will pick up some bonus with returns for a mid-table attack. What is not to like there? There's no sub 6 million forward in the game right now who's better value than Joao Pedro, in my opinion. As long as he's fit, he's going to be a pure perma starter in my team. I'm not going to bench him because he loves big games as well. Look at his returns in the big games. City, Hull, Brentford, Bournemouth, Hull, Arsenal, goal, United, goal. So this guy loves the big fixtures. I'm just going to start him this week. In terms of if you wanted to buy Joao Pedro, this probably isn't the ideal entrance point for Brighton with them at home to Arsenal in Game Week 20, but if you can delay the move 1 week and then pounce on Joao Pedro for Ipswich away, I also like that strategy. Raul is a little bit of a minutes problem for me. He hasn't been getting past even 70 minutes, and for me, it's just not workable. That's not doable with the rate of late goals coming and increasing every season. So for me, Raul is an absolute avoid at the moment. At the higher price point, there's only one essential striker in the current meta, and that's Isak. Yes, he's expensive, but he's just the best forward in the game right now. His non-pen XGI per 90 is higher than Haaland. If we go off post-shot XG, his finishing skill is actually just a touch below Haaland in terms of quality, and Isak still has some great fixtures left in this run like Wolves, Southampton, and his next game is arguably his most preferred fixture historically in Tottenham. So number one priority buy should be Isak. If you don't have Watkins now, I probably wouldn't consider Ollie Watkins. I highly doubt the strong minutes lost after this Leicester at home fixture, and with the Rodgers suspension, I am a little bit untrusting of that Villa attack just for a 1 week punt against Leicester, who might also have Hermansen back, who's prevented the most XG this season. Still, it's a good fixture, but it's just too short term for me. If you own, then just hold him and then sell him off later. Next, let's talk about Nico Jackson. Nico is really frustrating, especially for me, because he got benched away to Ipswich. Now, I disagree with the people that are saying, his long-term minutes aren't nailed. I think Maresca did choose to protect Jackson from the yellow card suspension because Jackson's on 4 yellows. He's been on 4 yellows for 9 weeks now. A 5th yellow card against Ipswich would have been a ban for Palace away. Now, I know Maresca does not want to be pulling up to Selhurst Park with Joao Felix, Nkunku, and Guiu as the number 9 options against Glasner's massive back 3 against Guehi, Chalobah, and Lacroix. You got to be joking. So, for me, I do think that's the real factor of why Jackson was benched. And that's what I was saying last episode too. The fact that they also lost to Ipswich really cements Jackson's place in that 11, in my opinion. The yellow card threshold has now been extended to 10 as we're past the halfway point in the season, which in theory secures his minutes from here on out. If Nico does get rotated in any of the upcoming games, then 100% it's time to sell because he'd be a serious minutes risk long term, especially for Chelsea's easy games, which are the times when you actually want him. Nico needs nailed minutes to compete in the power curve, guys. He needs the nailed minutes because he's not on pens like a Watkins or an Isak. His underlyings are still pretty great, close to what Watkins has put up this campaign, and with Chelsea's fixtures ranking 7th best across the next 10, I'm just going to sit on him for the foreseeable. I definitely think he's clear of the likes of Havertz and Solanke, at least for the next 5. Both of them will have those extra cup games and European fixtures to contend with across the next few months. So if he does get the minutes, if Nico gets the minutes, I'm expecting him to stay inside the top 3 striker meta at this point. Now, I've seen a few risky people go with Haaland. Technically, he still has top 2 data alongside Isak, but there's also a 5.6 million Bumba price difference between him and Isak. It's not really a question to whether he's worth it right now because Isak is delivering the same output he is. Watkins, Jackson, and Solanke also aren't far behind either. Haaland's just too expensive for me, but the fixtures are there. His ownership at the elite tiers of the game is so low that if you did captain him and you did get one of those big 20 pointers, he'll probably halve your overall rank. So if you need to gain a lot quickly, if Haaland does pass your personal eye test, and if you're willing to captain, then maybe he could be the perfect pickup for you. Morgan Rogers picked up a 5th yellow card against Brighton. He's suspended for one of his best fixtures in Leicester at home. So I'm sure some of you will be looking to sell. He was a very template pick, so at least personally, I'm pretty happy he's been suspended because it pushes managers to different players, which in turn makes the game more open. Wood was the striker who entered into the template after Cunha dropped out. In the midfield, it's actually Anthony Gordon who's being rapidly bought at the moment. As his ownership begins to rise, he'll start to solidify as a template pick, and I can understand why. 6 weeks ago, Gordon had 3 returns in 13 starts. Now he's returned in 4 consecutive matches, and he's 1 away from hitting double-digit involvements for the season. Tottenham is also an excellent entrance point with their defensive injuries, so if you do have the money, I really like this move. He's on set pieces. Also, an Isak injury would mean he'd be on penalties, so the routes to points potential is definitely there with Anthony Gordon. There are a few midweek rounds coming up. Newcastle do have 2 legs of the EFL semi-finals to play soon, and Gordon was rotated a few weeks back versus Brentford. A little bit of risk there, but all around you should be fine. He's a great option. If you're in and around that same price point, I'd also consider Eze and Mbumo. I do prefer Ismail Assar because Palace aren't that good of an attack, and Sa has fantastic data, boasting the best post-shot XG out of all of these options. So Sa over Eze for me, but Eze does have some good routes to points, does take a few set pieces, a little bit of pen share, so could go with Eze if you wanted to, and Eze obviously just scored, so if you're somebody that likes to chase points in theory, then maybe you should go for Eze. Mbumo is also an interesting option because He's got Southampton away in game week 20. The fixtures after that aren't great in Man City at home and Liverpool at home, but Mbeumo is an elite FPL asset on pens, 90 minutes, nailed talisman. Like I said with Wissa, Brentford fixtures turn back nicely at that back end close to game week 25, game week 26. So if you were able to rotate an Mbeumo in and out depending on the fixtures, then I think he could be a good potential option for you. Still, I think Gordon has a nicer fixture patch for a permaplay asset, and at 7.5 million, you do want someone who you can just permaplay and not need to worry about benching rotation. Now, Bruno Fernandes is clear of his suspension, but nobody's going to be bringing him in ahead of Liverpool away. Depending on his performance, I would consider him for game week 21 when he's got Southampton, but let's see how the derby goes this weekend. I still prefer Odegaard at this moment in time on those Arsenal corners. That's just such a big boost to his expected assist total, and he's the one I'm really thinking is probably going to be taking pens. So I do expect Odie to improve on that seasonal output of 3 GA. That's just too low for the caliber of player. Now, if you can't put any money into the Rodgers spot, then I would consider Enzo, but I still think Ismail Assar's underlyings really portray him as that clear standout option from those budget guys. I'd try to find a way to get him over Enzo in that spot. As a lifelong Man United fan, Alisson's been one of the guys I've really just hated the most because he's just so jammy. I swear to God, every time Bruno shoots, he just saves it every single time, and he's just really tidy, rarely makes a mistake, and it's actually come to a point now where he's a genuine FPL option. Liverpool's defensive numbers are not only top 2 in England, but they're also top 3 in Europe. Just 1 goal conceded in the Champions League is joint best with Inter Milan, who regularly utilize a back 5. Slot is a strictly back 4 manager, so for him to be putting up those kind of statistics against these guys who's sitting back 5 behind the ball, it's very impressive. And look, usually Alisson does have Van Dijk and Konate in front of him, which is the reason why his saves per game are pretty low compared to the other keepers. But if we look at Alisson's baseline, it's actually pretty decent compared to the other keepers, and in comparison to the other Liverpool defenders, it's actually really high, apart from Trent, obviously, because he's a creative monster. And that's mainly down to Alisson's consistency, because he's always hitting the goalkeeping passing tiers. And with a 15 baseline, I'm expecting him to pick up a few more bonus than he has done in this next fixture patch, which includes Ipswich and Man United. I also expect him to pick up some more save points too, because historically Bournemouth and Brentford take a lot of shots on target at home. Liverpool assets are going to be very highly discussed in my next few videos because they have a double game week coming soon. Final date has not been confirmed on that, but yes, that double game week is coming. Apparently, it might be in game week 25, which would be a double of Everton away and Wolves at home, which not too bad at all. And from the supposed title challengers, you'd expect 6 points from 6. There are a few drawbacks with Alisson. I will have to mention his recent injury record. Over the last 18 months, it hasn't been good at all. 3 hamstring setbacks, which is why he's missed a lot of game time last year. And all of them were re-injuries, basically. So that does have to play a factor. It has to play a factor in transfer selection. You got to consider injury records at this part of the season, because why? Your aim is to build a robust team. For me, at least, I want to build a robust team. I don't want to have 4 or 5 injuries sprung on me in the space of a few game weeks, and goalie injuries are the absolute worst kind of injury because it's always a low upside transfer. If I get Alisson now, and let's say he gets injured from here on out, that means 2 transfers on a goalkeeper, when ideally I don't want to make another transfer on my goalie until my next wildcard. So that's a drawback. Another drawback on top of that is the budget goalie strategy. Last sleeper selection, we had a cheap keeper in Dean Henderson in only 4.4 million at the time of recording that one, and Alisson's 1 mil more. So if you have a Henderson, right, and he manages, let's say he manages half of Alisson's points across the next 5 weeks, the guys with Henderson are probably going to be winning based off long-term value. Why? Because that 1 million, where are they going to put it? They're going to put it in their attack instead of their defense. So they're probably getting a few more assists, goals on top of that. So I do think that's also a concern, that you're battling against these cheap goalkeepers who, and I do worry about Alisson's ability to really justify his price point as a goalkeeper, and with the low saves, it is a little concern. So those are some concerns I have with him. But honestly, if you have some money lying around from the Saka injury and maybe you need a keeper, then I would look at Alisson. Liverpool are a defense I'd consider doubling up on in the current meta because their defensive data is very good. And if you're someone who likes to use clean sheet odds to help you make your decisions, then maybe you should actually go for it. Liverpool will have the top 3 clean sheet odds almost every week up until that potential double in 25. So for me personally, I'm not going there because I don't want to lock myself out of 3 Liverpool just yet. I've got 2 right now with Salah and Trent. So just in case someone else emerges closer to the double, I want that to be accessible. But I do believe Alisson is a very good differential. If you enjoyed this one and you're new around here, then hit that subscribe button, drop a like on the video, and I'll speak to you in Best Captain. Peace.